Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Also want to give a special thank you to Jordan Couch for bringing the most amazing donuts that I've ever eaten in my life. Fantastic. So, we're gonna do the governor's roundtable right now. And I do want to call on our new parliamentarian, Alex Stevens, who asked to be recognized. And so, take it away, parliamentarian.
Well, thank you, Madam President, and governors and staff. Please know that I consider this a very big honor to be asked to do this. There will be times where I may interject. For example, when Governor Bloom, you were talking, and what I heard was a kernel of whether or not you were actually proposing an amendment. So after you were done, I wanted to make sure that we didn't miss that and then get down to the final vote and for whatever reason you felt left out. But one of the things that I will be doing with the president from time to time is just um, coaching her up to the point that she really doesn't need my help, but I'm there to help. One of the things that came up, and I appreciate the immediate past President Clark, was the whole idea about an amendment and whether it's friendly or not. And technically, what I said is there's no such thing as a friendly amendment. However, even under Roberts, the body can decide to have a process that it wants to use, and that is perfectly fine. So there is no such thing unless you want to make it a thing. And so one of the things that in talking to uh, Dan Clark about, and by the way, we have history. We both came on to the board. Well, you were a few months before me. But just in that process of friendly amendment, if the body wants to do that, they can. And the process would be somebody would offer an amendment and they would get a second. And the chair, first of all, has the judgment to decide whether or not to go back to the original maker of the motion and find out if they consider that friendly. And if they do, and then ask actually the seconder as well, and if both of them do, then you can actually dispense with voting on the amendment because it's now been accepted by the original maker as a part of their motion. And if that's what you want to do, that is totally fine. And from here on, that's what I'm going to work off of the assumption. And it's really to help you do your process best. But also, I am a big champion against the weaponization of Roberts. Not everybody knows Roberts. Not everybody understands Roberts. You know, and it's almost, well, who was Robert and how come he got to make the rules? But what I hope to do is in giving advice to the chair and to all of you, also standing ready to answer any questions or clarify any things about those various motions. My last point, and I have been honored, but I want to make sure. So I will do my very best, which could be hard, not to speak on various things, but to really hold that close. But I offer to all of you, not only to the president, but all of you, because this is about the body and your meeting, if there comes a point where you think I have weighed in too much or need to back off, let me know. Just let me know. And also, of course, let the president know, but let me know. Because I absolutely respect all of you and the positions you have. And I was one of you, but I am not any longer, but I'm allowed to have this honor of being the parliamentarian first for the president, but also actually for the body.
And thank you, Parliamentarian Stevens. I feel so grateful for your presence and your wisdom. And I also want to say, if anyone has any thoughts about the way in which meetings are being run or suggestions for how you think it could go better, please feel free to reach out. We're a team. We are in this together. So I want to know if there are ways in which you think the meetings could be smoother or more productive or just stuff that annoys you. Um, so I'm going to open up the floor now for stuff people want to talk about. Anything at all. Governor Wen.
Hi, I live in probably the district with the most military personnel, and one of the military personnel member brought up the fact that we have an incongruity in giving a waiver for reservists who serves outside the state, but we don't do it for active military duty personnel, a waiver for fees. So I talked to the legal assistant, the military personnel section, and they would like us to look into whether we can change that rule. So I'm asking for like the go ahead to work with Hanada on this to see what it would look like and then to see how much it would cost and to see if this is something we want to change. That's it.
Um, no, but I think I think what's interesting maybe is to get a straw poll of some kind to see if folks are interested or not. So let's do that.
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
I also think it'd be helpful. So we've talked about this so many times over the years about how to navigate, and not the substance, but how to navigate ideas that different governors have, which are often usually great ideas. And we've got to prioritize. We can't explore every idea at the same time. So I would say, and it's hard because one idea that Governor Williams-Ruth had is, well, maybe we can bring it to the round table and use that as a way to see. I think 100% of the time when we bring it to the round table, everyone's like, yeah, it seems great. Go for it. So one thing that would be helpful, I think, for a lot of these ideas, if we could find a committee for them to go to, I think that would help a bit. It would also help to ensure a more robust process as opposed to like us just drafting something and bringing it forward. I think it'd be nice to have, just more of a thoughtful process.
How about exact? How about exact committee serve as the vetting of the ideas?
It could be exec. Exec doesn't do that as much as the other committees, so it's not as used to it. But under our policy, if no other committee makes sense, then the exec committee is the place for it to go.
If it's gonna have a impact on, from a fiscal perspective, to evaluate what the cost would be, but perhaps, and maybe have like different, configurations, or, if it's reservists who are mobilized versus all active duty personnel versus somewhere in between or something of that nature.
Strangely enough, as you were saying that Matthew disagreed and said it should be member engagement. So I don't know, but I think for me, exact makes sense. So it's worth talking about where our ideas should flow.
One other thing I want to throw out there at the risk of being a little unpopular is that whenever and I already told Governor Wynn this, one concern I have about taking up fee discounts or waivers one at a time is that over the years, there are many groups that you can make a compelling pitch that there should be a discount or a waiver. Young lawyers, retired lawyers, government lawyers, public interest lawyers. So I just worry about taking them up one at a time because you don't really have the chance to see the big picture and think about the impact. And at the end of the day, somebody has got to pay the fees. And so is it all going to be on a small group? Which is why I do love more having the conversation about providing the assistance to the people who need it, not because they belong to a group, but because they have demonstrated that they need it. All that to say, wherever this goes, I would recommend that it be sort of a holistic discussion that could be about this specific group, but also includes the larger question.
Governor Price.
I would like to echo executive director's comments. This very issue, not related to reservists, but related to should we seek a reduction in fees, has come up and been debated previously at the Pro Bono and Public Service Committee. I think you're right, Tara. I think there's, oh, well, we could do it here, we could do it there. From a budgetary standpoint, it makes no sense. We should have one spot where we could look at any and all potential changes.
And I wonder, I like the idea of it going to a committee, sort of, and you know, I keep talking about the governance committee that we don't have, that I think we should. I wonder if we couldn't have the governance committee look at those policy issues that are being introduced as well. That it's kind of a catch-all place, because I'm just not sure that it rightly belongs. I don't want to overburden budget and audit because their focus really is on the fiscal rather than the policy orientation. So I don't know. Go ahead, Francis.
I have one right there.
Try to take mine.
I want to say, I don't want us to jump to the solution space. And Tara and Diana may get what I'm trying to say. I may have lost the whole room, but solution space is when you are talking about a problem and you're trying to fix it right at this table. Please don't do that. Always take a step back and look at the process that is going to be more involved. You have to hear from the people impacted by the problem before you start thinking about the solutions. There are few veterans that is sitting on this table. So we can put ourselves in the shoes of those people. So don't want us to jump to the solution space. We just had a review. I was as a treasurer, part of the committee that looks into status, and it looks to why we should waive fees for some and not waive fees for some. We did a whole year work with Chair Petrosic and Chief Garcia, and we are just doing our presentations now, and you see some of the result of all that work. And that program was that subcommittee work within the Member Engagement Council and report to the Member Engagement Council. This is a member engagement issue. It's not a budget issue. It's not a finance issue. Of course, once the policy is formulated, it will come back to budget and audit for fiscal impact. It will come back to equity, to DEI for equity impact. But this issue is squarely within the bailiwick of Member Engagement Council. And I think Governor Dresden and Governor Mary Rathbone are the chairs. And I see nodding from, I believe, yes, he's the chair. And I see an agreement that this is the kind of work that usually come to Member Engagement Council, and is the place to explore and to look and to talk to people that are impacted by these decisions. What are they looking at getting? And then look at our finances and all of that. So please, I'm just throwing caution. Do not try to solve the problem at this table. Look at the process. This is a good question that should be taken up by Member Engagement Council. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Oh, sorry. That's an interesting point. I guess I want to know definitively, what does this group think about it going to member engagement? Yeah, people are good with that. Okay, well then it shall be done. It shall be done. Anyone else? Anything else? Yep.
Just one other thing, and this is back to parliamentary stuff. So one of the things that I'm advising the president is a lot of times you'll have a presentation and then governors will speak to the presentation. Some will speak against whatever, but there's no motion on the table. So then finally a motion is made. And what I have advised the president is at least give the opportunity for a minimum of 2 speakers on each side of the issue. And the speaker can expand that. But the reason I'm advising that is because while there's been general discussion, there is now an actual motion on the table to make sure there's an opportunity for governors to weigh in on the motion that they're about to vote. And I'm recommending also the at least practice of at least 2, but maybe just 1 on each side, because I also want to guard against, and I've seen it happen, the person makes the motion, the seconder seconds, and then before there is discussion, somebody moves the question, which is to cut off debate, which I think is a fundamentally wrong thing to do because you all haven't actually had the opportunity to speak to the motion. So that's one of the things that I've also recommended to her, and I just wanted you to be aware of it.
Thank you, Parliamentarian. Governor Williams-Ruth?
My last opportunity to speak as a governor. I have a list. Number 1, I want everyone to know that the LGBT section is doing a CLE, mini CLE on December 6th at noon to 2 online. The topic of conversation will be name change procedures and led by John Cummings, an attorney from Tacoma. And then also estate planning considerations and needs in light of recent developments this week for LGBTQIA Two-Spirit Plus people individually, led by yours truly. It is going to, I mean, we have submitted materials to get credit, but it's really not about the credit. And we're really doing a big push to the public. And for those who may not know, even for WSBA CLEs, the public can participate, and you just have to create a public profile. When you go to click to register, it says log in, and if you don't, and you just say click to create, and it can be done. It's $10. And so I just would ask, please, if you have people in your community, spread the word. It's already on the website. So if you just go to the WSBA.org and go to sections and the LGBTQ section, it's there. So this is what several of us were doing on Wednesday morning. We're creating our outlines for this presentation. Second is there's a proposal out there that some of you may have seen because of your involvement with sections regarding a new section on GALs. And it was originally proposed to be just a settlement GAL consideration. And I weighed in saying, you know, I would participate in that new section if it were broader, because I don't really work in settlement. So I'm not in lawsuits but I do work with probate guardian ad litems. And I have some that I use, but I'm always dreading the phone call of, oh gosh, bandwidth, I can't take it. Or they're more seasoned than me and they say, ooh, yeah, I'm closing up shop. And one of the greatest benefits for me of our sections is the listservs. And I would join, not because I have the bandwidth to become a GAL, but to be able to see who the people are that are engaging, that are answering questions, that are the people that when I run out of my own list, I can call and say, hey, Bob, I've seen you on the listserv. I have a case. Would you be willing to take this on? So when this makes its way, and this is the first time a new section has been born since I've been involved, I didn't know that the Board of Governors was involved in that process. So I would just personally ask that when this does come to the Board of Governors, that you consider approving this section to let it go forward, which leads to my point 3, where I had written to President Angelvell about the need to walk the thin line for people needing referrals. And I was calling it the litigator's referral section, where it would literally just be a listserv for people who are able to post and again, there are a lot of considerations and it would need to be very much a clear form to not break any rules. But I had somebody call me that was actually a referral from Governor Rathbone. And she thought I might be able to help. And so she referred them to my office. And it was a very messy, ugly probate. And just terrible, sad facts, sudden death, executor without a will, was a mid-20s son. There's a stepchild. And I'm like, I can't take this on. But I don't want to just give you a name and send you into the universe. I spent 2.5 days calling every single litigator I knew in the realm of estate administration probate, asking them. Well, and in fact, I sent an email and I put the names of all the people that were involved for conflict check first, and then gave the facts. And every single law firm could not take it for bandwidth or conflict reasons. And then I found one, and they were able to run through conflicts, and they said, yes, we will do it, and it's going to be a $50,000 retainer because we think it's going to be about $150,000 in total fees. That's how messy it was. Now, again, that's not normal, but that's where people need this. And I just thought, I wish, and again, the current system is not set up where I could just blast that out. But if we had something, the access to justice issue is not limited to the criminal justice system. And this is a 25-year-old who's now unrepresented and, that was facing a TEDRA hearing 2 weeks later. Just very, very, very sad. And I mean, I was calling people I don't even know. Everyone, my own friends, like, oh, you should call and this person's name. And I'm like, okay. I literally called people and introduced myself and said, hi, my name is Brent. I'm a practitioner in this field. 7 people told me to call. And again, they couldn't take it. So the needs are out there, and some way, and simply saying that, our local bars handle referrals. That is a standard answer we've heard. And the answer was that wasn't enough. And we're not getting our need. And so now we have a 25-year-old who, I don't know how it's turned out, but the impact was significant. I mean, so I hope that someone will take that and look into the option of how we can actually provide a service, and whether it steps on toes of KCBA or Pierce County or any of the county, I don't care. What I care about is that there was somebody I wasn't able to help after dedicating 2.5 days of reaching my entire network of people asking for help. Number 3, I guess this would be 4. The Puget Sound Business Travelers Association. We should give Shelley the best birthday present ever and buy a membership. Because we as an organization are failing her and ourselves by not giving her the tools to be successful. We should not be staying in hotels that have sinks being held up by garbage cans and 2x4s. We should not be having to have these issues with transportation over and over again. If you just looked at the PSBTA website, it says that $1.5 billion is spent on meetings and events in Washington state alone. There is a network of professionals, whether they are the vendor side or the client side, that know each other. That when you have a problem, you actually call and talk to a person you know. And that gets us discounted rates. If you've never worked in hospitality, the people who call and just say, hi, I want to book a wedding and I need 100 rooms, you get charged the highest rate. But when you're part of the industry, you get to call up and say, hey, Susie, I got a group coming in and we need this. And what can we do? And they'll say, oh, here's what we can do. And we're not United Airlines or Alaska or Microsoft. We're not going to be spending the hundreds of billions, but for the association as a totality, if one person, such as someone with a lovely title of Director of Meeting and Events, were to call on behalf of all the sections and say, we're going to do all of our mid-years at Suncadia, how much would we be able to save if we did that? And then be able to have the things where Shelley would call up and say, hey, Bob, we're thinking of coming out to your place and no one's ever been there. I'm going to need 2 nights to come check it out. So again, please, this is something I've been harping on for years. And I use that term as a pejorative because people think I am just being demanding and unrealistic. But in my minimum year of hours given to this association, I gave up the opportunity cost to make $1.1 million in billable fees. So I don't think it's too much to ask that I don't have a room that doesn't ever get below 83 degrees that has me checking out in the middle of the night and going home, which is why I don't stay at the Motif, because that was the last time I stayed there. Because every time I stayed there, there were problems with that hotel. And by the way, that garbage can with the 2x4s, that's somebody staying there right now. That their sink is being held up by a garbage can with wood and wood shims keeping it in place. Now, number 5, the governance committee. This was something that was talked about this summer. I haven't seen anything moving it forward. I hope it does. Our bylaws impact and hamper the ability of us to run a smooth association. I mean, the number of people that said it yesterday, I mean, even our poor guy from Alps was like, I have never heard anyone in things saying that we need bylaw revisions. It needs to happen. Why is it that a sitting judge can weigh in and support other judicial candidates, but we can't? People called me. Governor Stevens and I actually first met before I ever was involved in this association through the Washington State Democrats. People know me as a politically involved person and said, Brent, how do I vote for these things? And I said, I'm sorry, I can't tell you. But what I can do is say, go look at Judge Jamie Hawk or Judge Nicole Gaines Phelps or, all these other, or, Sabrina Aarons from Pierce County. Go look at their Facebook pages and they'll tell you who to vote for. I can't do it because I'm not allowed, but these actual judges are posting their things and they can, and that doesn't make sense. And I was just talking with our chief communications director about the character and fitness reform. And she's like, well, did you talk to the candidates for Supreme Court? I'm like, no, I can't. I cannot go to a rally for Sal or for Dave, even to ask the question, hey, there's a pending thing. If you get on the bench, what are you going to do with it? Because that would be in violation of our bylaws and the way governors are supposed to interact with elected positions where being an attorney is a requirement. So I hope the governance committee goes in and looks at fixing all of the complexities, intricacies, quirks, and also makes it reflective of the reality of claims of how we as governors shouldn't be able to weigh in on who's the prosecuting attorney when you've known someone for years. I mean, Governor Couch didn't even know this bylaw existed. And he said, I've known Sal for years, and you're telling me I can't be involved? I'm like, yes. And right there at the bar in Richmond, I'm like, here's our bylaws. Let me scroll down. Here it is. You can't do it. Now, he had the great good fortune of being in a firm that's not just himself, and so his firm could make a contribution, and it doesn't get tied to him. I'm a solo. I can't hide behind my firm because I can't say, oh gosh, that wasn't me. That was my firm that was supporting this candidate. So again, fixing that. And then my last meeting I attended as a liaison was for the Indian law section. Man, that was an interesting meeting. And whoever takes that over, I hope you reach out and start the conversation. And I do want to speak directly, Jordan, on the licensure issue. They worked so hard to get Indian law added to the bar exam. And I said, well, this new committee is going to be happening and getting into the actual rules. And I said, please reach out. And they are so overwhelmed, as we all are. They don't have, and this is not meant to be a dig or harassment for our chief communications officer, but they're like, I can't read through a 3-page email to find the one bullet point that applies to us that we need to be there. As we are going forward in doing things like the licensure task force, I truly believe we have an inherent duty to reach out to impacted communities, to ask for that input, not at the end, not when it's all said and done and you're just wanting the rubber stamp. how are we going to be incorporating what has now been incorporated in the existing bar exam regarding, Indian law in Washington into our new stage phases of bar licensure? I can guarantee you, I'm projecting a question I'm going to be asking our deans in the afternoon, because for the people who are going to do the pathway through law school, is there going to become a requirement that they take an Indian law class so that someone can't go through, become a licensed attorney, and not even get this one area of law that is now part of the current bar exam, and what I anticipate will be part of the next gen as well. So it was just very eye-opening to hear from them, and the fact that they do want to be involved, but it can't just be an email blast. We do need to look at, even though we didn't pass the lived experience stipend, we do need to reach out to impacted communities. And we need to be forward thinking in who are the impacted communities. Because we're trying to create the better bar in service, in regulation, in all these things. And it means stepping out of I appreciate the comments that I brought things to the table other people hadn't thought of. That's not a comforting thing. So now my voice isn't going to be here. Who's going to raise those issues? Who's going to speak up and make you think of something that you've never thought of before? Michelle Sue did it for me on Wednesday night at our Affinity Bar dinner. So I thank you for the time to run down my last list. And yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Governor Williams-Ruth.